Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Art of MMA. I'm Mike Ginn, that's professional kickboxer, the mechanic, Brandon Catino. We are back in action this week to talk about UFC 289, Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana. We'll talk about everything that happened, what's going to happen next with the retirement of Amanda, and then we'll finish up the conversation with who is the female GOAT of MMA? Is it Amanda? Is it Cyborg? Somebody else? There's not really too many names in that conversation. Those are the top two, and me and Brandon probably going to be on different sides of that, so that'll be a fun conversation. But first, you know what it is. Go ahead and head over to FightersFirst.shop. Get the latest apparel, all officially licensed. You have the mechanic collection over there with the new bombs and drama stuff selling like crazy. You got the two new kickboxers we have, Muay Thai fighters, Cody and Kate on there. Of course, you got the Art of MMA collection as well. Support the brand, support the show, and most importantly, support the fighters. FightersFirst.shop. Brandon, how you feeling today, buddy?
Feeling good, man. You know, it was a good weekend. Got to actually corner a teammate of mine.
I was about to say you were in Newark, right?
Yeah, yep, Newark, Delaware. Newark, Delaware for gut check. My boy, Craig Alexander. He was the main event against Anthony Dill. It was a good fight. We went back and forth. Craig got his hand raised. Job was done. We left. We went to Buffalo Wild Wings.
Got some revenge for his coach.
Yep. Yeah, man. We went to Buffalo Wild Wings and we were able to watch the rest of the UFC pay-per-view.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of wondering how much you caught of the show because I knew you were out there coaching and with your teammates and stuff in Delaware. So good thing you got to catch the highlights and everything else as well as the main card. So that was really cool. Got a lot to talk about today, so we'll go ahead and jump in it. Only two subjects today. Not going to waste a lot of time. UFC 289, Amanda Nunes, Irene Aldana, late substitution for Juliana Pena, who was out with a broken rib. Did not stop Juliana from running her mouth all night, but broken rib kept her out of this fight. We'll jump right into the main event, Brandon. Amanda Nunes and still. Not only and still very dominant win over Irene Aldana. Aldana never got going. Amanda shut her down every step of the way, whether it was wrestling or striking, whatever you talk about, just a completely dominant matchup. Before we get into the retirement and everything else that went with that, break down this fight for me.
Break down this fight. What? I wouldn't be like, what fight? Was there even really a fight?
I mean, they spent 25 minutes in the octagon. Something happened.
There was 25 minutes of something going on, but I don't know if it was fighting. But no, Nunes.
There was more fighting in this fight than there was in the Mayweather Gotti fight.
Just Nunes. Nunes did her thing. She came out. She controlled the fight. Aldana, like, to me, man, just. She had a high guard, and usually when you have a high guard like this, that means that, hey, you're gonna try to walk in and you're gonna try to throw inside, but she didn't. She really just kept her hands like this, and she stayed outside the whole time. She really didn't throw much. I think she threw. I think the stats were like a total of like 40 something fight. I'm sorry, 40 something fights. I think it might have been like 40 something strikes. Her strike per minute is like 5.3. So I mean, that's basically, she should have been throwing like over like 150 strikes, but she only threw 43 the whole fight. So I'm saying she really wasn't throwing anything. She was really more defensive and surviving than really attacking. Yeah,
I think that's more what it was. I think she was trying to survive. Yep. She has really good coaches. Like, I mean, you're talking about Diego Lopez, who we just saw how he fights not too long ago, making his UFC debut. Alessandro Nono Costa, all those Brazilian Warriors team. Alexa Grassa's father is their head coach. She's surrounded by a lot of really great fighters, and all of them were yelling at her the whole fight to go, let it go, and it just really seemed like Irene didn't want to get knocked out. Like, she was sitting there just trying to survive. And I think Amanda took that fight wherever she felt like taking it. She was putting on a show because I think she knew in her mind it was her last fight ever. She didn't tell nobody, but people kind of knew about it. I sat there and heard the announcers the whole time kind of saying, they were hinting at it the whole time. And I was just like, don't put that in the universe. We still want to see Amanda fight for a little while longer. But they kept saying it. This could be it. This could be it. Sure enough, after the fight, that was it. Not much to break down about the fight. Amanda was, doing what she does. She makes good fighters look average. You look at the last fight with Juliana Pena, coming back when she was motivated and ready to get her throne back. She put Pena in the hospital. Like, Pena had to have facial surgery. Like, when Amanda's on her game, there's very few women in the world that can stop her. We'll talk about this later when we have the GOAT debate. But, other than the two Shevchenko fights, and then here's something people don't give any credence to. When Amanda lost to Pena, yes, Pena put a great performance on. She put the pressure on, wore Amanda down, got her in that rear naked. Amanda choked before it was even all the way in. Amanda wanted out of that cage. But Amanda was coming off COVID. And people don't realize that. A lot of people just like brush it over like, oh, she was healthy. She trained. She barely trained. She made weight. She barely trained. She came in lackluster, and you saw the results. Juliana Pena took it to her. The next fight, she came in motivated to prove a point. She could have finished Juliana Pena anytime she wanted. She purposely stretched to 5 rounds just to prove a point, and put Pena in the hospital because of it. So Pena's sitting there chirping at the sideline when Amanda retired, telling her she sucks. She's not Amanda Anderson Silva. She's not this. She's not that. Pena needs to pipe down, because I'm a big Pena fan, but let's be real. You got put to the hospital last time you fought this woman. You should have been fighting her on Saturday night, but you broke your rib in training. That's your fault. Like, accidents happen in training. It's something that happens, but that's your fault. Nobody that I talked to, and maybe Brandon, you can tell me different, wanted to see Pena and Nunes a third time. There was just nobody really else in the division. Like, Amanda's cleaned out the division. There's nobody. They had Pennington as a backup fighter, who another person that came out and said, oh, I would have been a much more of a warrior in the cage. Oh, really? Because when you fought, what was it, 224 or whatever UFC number it was, she did the same thing to you. You sat there and refused to throw a punch. You sat there for all these rounds, sat there and looked like a shell of yourself. That's what great fighters do. I've seen Valentina do it to people over in the flyweight division. It's just what great fighters do. You've once in a while come into a Pena or an Alexa Grasso or one of these fighters that steps up and gives you a challenge, and sometimes it messes you up. Amanda came back and dominated 2 performances and walks off into the sunset. We'll talk about what that means for Amanda and her legacy later. Stay tuned. Don't tune out. Stay tuned. But let's talk real quick, Brandon, what this means for the UFC women's bantamweight division. I think the obvious fight is Pena and Pennington, since they were basically the backup fighter and the person who was supposed to fight for this title. But is there anybody else that really deserves a shot?
I was going to say, who is ranked number?
They're 1 and 2.
Yeah. I would say, who's ranked number 3 again?
Holly.
No, then it would have been 4. I think, was it Caitlin Vienna? Right?
Yeah, but she has a loss to Holly and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, but I mean, I would say those 2 is fine, since I don't think they've ever fought before anyway. So
I think the problem, obviously the UFC featherweight division is shut down. Dana's pretty much said multiple times it's done, and officially now that Amanda's done. The bantamweight division has been boring for a while. A lot of the great fights and new fighters have been coming up in the flyweight and strawweight divisions. There's a lot of fresh blood in those 2 divisions. There's not a lot of fresh blood in the bantamweight division. There's a lot of older fighters or fighters that have been around. You have some fighters still building their way up, like, Pani Kinzad. You go down further, Chelsea Chandler starting to come up, and Julia Avila, but those are all like lower in the rankings. Like, they're not like title contenders yet, though. I guess Jamal Hill got a shot at number 7, so maybe Kinzad isn't crazy to think about that. But Yana now Santos, I can never say her original name anyway, so I guess Santos is easier to say. Is 6, but she's had some losses. Irene just lost at 5. Caitlin's 4. Holly's 3. Only thing I can see is maybe Pena and Holmes, just because it's a better pay-per-view seller. I think that would be. I know they fought before, but I'm saying, if it's a pay-per-view sell, I think that's a bigger sell. But Pena and Pennington's probably going to be the fight, and I think it's probably not even going to main event. It's probably going to be a co-main somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine with me. I mean, I just know that Juliana Pena should be, should be in there for the title. So
I mean, she has to be. She was supposed to fight for this belt, and she's the former champion. The only other person I can say that is Holly. Nobody else in that active division, and Misha down at 11, but Misha's flipping between divisions anyway. And Misha's even flirted with going back into retirement. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. As far as Aldana goes, I don't really know what's next for her because you can't punish her for taking a fight that she wasn't originally planning to take, right? Like she jumped in to help out and take this fight. I think on a month notice. You could give her someone like Vieira and keep her name in the top 5. She's already fought Holly Holm and got dominated by Holly. So there's not that fight. You have Santos, you have Kinzad. There's a number of fights there. Who would you like to see Aldana fight next?
I mean, honestly, man, I don't really know. I just rather her just take some time off, get her mind right, and then when she's ready to get back in there, she'll get back in there.
Yeah, like I said, she's a really great fighter, and we really didn't get a chance to see her get going on Saturday. But that's what happens when you step in there with some other great fighter that is that much levels above you. Over in the co-main event, Charles Oliveira got back on his horse, got a dominant win over Beneil Dariush. My heart goes out to Dariush because we kept saying, kind of like Oliveira, when Oliveira was coming up, like, he deserves a shot. He deserves a shot. He deserves a shot. He was probably going to get that shot if he beat Charles. Mm-hmm. And Charles has a chip on his shoulder coming off that loss to Makhachev. And Charles Oliveira looked as good as we have ever seen him. What do you think of that fight?
Yeah, man. Dariush was winning fight until he wasn't winning. I
don't even know if he was winning because even when he was Oliveira was on his back. Oliveira was throwing up subs. Oliveira was striking from the bottom. But Oliveira pulled guard. But
Dariush had top control. He had the ground and pound going on. He was landing shots to me. Dariush was controlling that fight. But Oliveira, man, he was able to make the space, got back up, man. That he got him with that head kick that had Dariush go back. Saying he was looking good. The good thing was he wasn't doing his normal stuff that he usually does. Which is where he kind of does his scissor knee or his flying knee. He kind of just kept his feet planted. And he came out smart. And he got the job done.
I disagree with you on the ground part. I think Oliveira was in control that whole time. I think he pulled guard. You saw Dariush punch the canvas multiple times trying to hit Oliveira. Did he get a couple shots in? Yeah, but I think Oliveira wanted to be on that bottom. I think he was trying to pull off a sub. He had the heel hook in for a second. He had different things. I think that was Oliveira pulling guard, wanting to be there. And then when he didn't think he could get it, he popped back up as soon as he wanted to. As soon as he wanted to get up, he got up. He got up, hit through that head kick. Caught him on the chin with barely grazed him, but it was enough to really put Dariush off balance with that jab, and then came down with the hammer fist when he was on the ground. I get the ego that goes with being a fighter, and I get the arrogance that goes with being a champion. When Makhachev tweeted out that, hey, there's levels, good win, Charles, but there's levels to this. Yeah, you got the win over Makhachev, but you didn't look fantastic against Volkanovski, even though you got the win. I want to see this rematch, Brandon. I don't know about you, but I really wanted to see Charles get another shot anyway because I felt like he had earned it after that long run he had. I want to see the rematch. What do you want to see?
Yeah, no, man. I mean, I'm down. I'm down if that's who's going to get the next shot. I mean, I want to say he has more of a calling for it than the winner of Poirier and Gaethje. But I know that's what a lot of people are kind of leaning towards. But I think Oliveira should be next, and then the winner of Gaethje and Poirier should be after that.
Yeah, and let's be real. Poirier and Gaethje at this point are fighting once a year anyway, so it wouldn't be absurd for them to fight and then sit out for a while. That's they're both at that point in their career where they're kind of doing what they want. Person I feel the worst for is Dariush. Beneil had been fighting his way up the food chain, and now there's nothing left for him because unless he wants to go to 170, he's not going to get a title shot at 155 anytime soon. There's very few fights left available for him because we talked about 2 and 3 fighting each other. Well, Chandler's at 5 and he's fighting Conor eventually. then that leaves Fazeev and Gamrot and some of these and Sarukian, and if he wants to fight a veteran like Dos Anjos, that would be a fun fight. But like, there's not much left for him unless, like, I think personally, I think Dariush should go to 170 and give that a shot. He's a bigger 155 anyway. Like, you saw his like build up at like again compared to Charles in that cage. What do you think should be next for him?
I think he should get the loser of July. He should get the loser of the BMF the BMF belt.
I can't wait to talk about that because honestly, I can't believe they brought that shit back out. Mr. No Gimmicks brought back the BMF belt. What? No gimmicks? Is that what Dana said?
But that's what I think should be next for Dariush. He's right. He's right in the mix. So I mean, you think about it, he get a win on one of those guys. He is right back in there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said when it comes to that we don't know the answer to. Right? Like, for one, Makhachev is also flirted with going up to 170. You have Volkanovski, who wants another shot at the 155 belt eventually, but he's got to get through Yair Rodriguez coming up. There's so many moving parts. They got Poirier and Gaethje fighting again, which is a fight I'm not really interested in because I thought Poirier just crushed him the first time. I'm like, why are we watching this again? Yeah, Gaethje had a few moments in the beginning of the fight, but once Poirier settled down, that was it. And then, Chandler Conor is going to be good for pay-per-view sales, but that's going to be about it for that one. Neither one of those was moved. Like, if Chandler knocks out Conor, what's that really do? Conor's lost like 2-3 fights in a row anyway, right? What's the difference? Mm-hmm. And if Conor knocks out Chandler, yeah, it puts him back in the conversation just because he's the name that Dana loves, the Dana White privilege. And the fact is he sells pay-per-views, right? Like, he sells. So it is what it is. But, what do you do? And that fight's even at 170. It's not even at 155, I believe. I think they're fighting at 170. So it doesn't do any for the 155 rankings, period. It just does things for like moving and shaking as far as like where you want to put somebody. But yeah, there's a lot of questions at that division, but I think Charles Oliveira deserves that shot. I think he should get that shot. And if Makhachev doesn't want to give it to him, then I think that's unfortunate because they're robbing the fans of what could be a pretty good rematch. This is my opinion. Also on the card, Mike Mallet, the home country guy, got the win over Fugit in submission. First of all, Vancouver, fix your guardrails, please. A lot of people could have been seriously hurt. Thankfully, I don't believe there were any serious injuries when the guardrail collapsed, when all the fans wanted to rush up and see Mike come into the cage. But this guy continues to impress. Nobody thought about him when he fought Solomon in the Dana White Contender Series, and he upset Solomon. Went on to have some pretty good, impressive performance so far in the UFC, and now he's on the main card having an impressive performance. We used to know him as just one of the coaches of Team Alpha Male, but this guy's making a name for himself. What do you think about his rise so far?
Yeah, man, it was a good fight. And man, like I tell people, like I tell my students, and even Dustin Poirier is a fan of saying it too, man. Yo, don't be silly, jump the ghillie, and that's what happened, man. He jumped the guillotine, rolled it up, finished it on top.
Yeah, you saw it even with the Solomon Renfro fight. Like he's really good at different submissions, like especially the chokes. So he's definitely somebody to look out for. He's building his name up pretty quickly. Brandon told me off air Dan Ige messed up his parlay. Sorry, Brandon. But Dan Ige got the win. What'd you think of that performance over Nate Landwehr?
Hey man, he looked good. Nah, man, yo, he looked good. Dan Ige, I mean, he was the betting favorite, same. And just sometimes with Ige, man, you just don't know, what you're gonna get with him. I just knew Nate, Nate is a tough guy. He always comes forward. Man, the man can take some shots, and which is what happened. He was taking shots, kept on going, but just Ige was just moving around, popping them, taking care of business, knocking them down. It's just that Ige just couldn't get the finish.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see where they match him up. He slid down the rankings. He's now 13, but he's a fun fight whenever he steps in the cage with anybody. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with that one. I wouldn't be surprised to see him jump up, fight a name like Giga or somebody like that. I know Giga was in the crowd, so it looks like, is he matched up with anybody soon, or is he just now coming back from an injury?
Who, Giga?
Yeah, Chikadze.
I don't think he is matched up. Oh wait, no,
maybe he was in the crowd on Saturday, which means he was probably there to talk to him about a fight.
Yeah, but no, but just let you know, I was gonna say, yeah, Solomon Renfro, he had lost to Mike Malott it was a CFFC event, but then also he did also 2 lose to Adam Fugit as well. He actually lost to both those guys.
Well, he lost to Mike at the Dana White Contender Series. The Fugit was a CFFC.
No, Mike was CFFC. Fugit was at oh,
you're right. He lost to Johnny Parsons at the Dana White Contender Series.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah. Fugit.
I knew he lost to Mike, but I couldn't remember what he was. Yeah. As competitive as that guy, he's got to be punching the screen every time he sees Mike Malott on the screen. I can't wait to the day we do see Solomon. He's bounced back with a couple wins. I can't wait to the day we see him in the UFC cage. I think it's going to be a fun time. Barrialt got the win over Eric Anders. Marc Andre had been calling out Eric Anders for a while, had wanted to see him in that cage, and he pretty much dominated Eric Anders. Anders had some moments, but, man, Marc Andre got that win pretty easily. We had the nasty headbutt situation in the Imavov-Curtis fight, so we never got to see a winner in that one. Honestly, that fight did not live up to my expectations in the first round. The second round, it got kind of tangled up a little bit, got the headbutt. I would have been interested to see how that fight ended in the third round because, Curtis tends to go for a finish, and there is no backup in Imavov either. So that was a good matchup. I hope they eventually run it back because we didn't really get what we wanted out of that fight.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. They'll probably run that back. They'll let Blades. They'll like, yeah, I know.
Ron Curtis.
I know, right? Ron Curtis is thinking, but no, they'll probably let him heal up, and then saying they could probably run it back if that's what they want to do. Yeah,
that's a nasty cut. He might be out for a couple months letting that one heal properly, especially where it was like right in the middle. That's gonna be hard. Jazz DeVicious, Miranda Maverick. Look, Jazz DeVicious has impressed a couple times. She came in the underdog again and still came out. She's tall for that division. She's long for that division. And she uses that size very well. She moves very well. Of course, she had one of our first fighters, Kate Clements, out there helping her train with her striking and stuff. We know Jazz DeVicious for her groundwork and stuff like that, but her striking's getting really, really good and really sharp. I know you said you were impressed with that off the air. What you think of that fight?
Yeah, no, man, it was a good fight. You say, Miranda Maverick is a tough girl. She definitely comes to fight. Like I said, I think I think I maybe had it 1-1 going into the third. But saying Jasmine did her thing and got her hand raised.
You gotta think she's gonna be ranked 15 or so soon. Like, I'm surprised she didn't take Maverick's ranking. Maybe the rankings just have not been updated as we're recording this yet. But I got to think that she jumps up to 15 and bops Maverick out of that top 15. And then I'd love to see her match up with a KGB Lee or a Tracy Cortez or even Casey O'Neill. I think that's going to be good. Macy Barber's right there. Like I said, there's so much young blood in that division for the women's flyweight. That's, like, to me, like one of the most exciting divisions coming up with all the new fighters. They all seem to be in that flyweight division. Also on that card, Zahabi got the knockout over Arokilang. Nelson got the win over Builder. Ursek got the win over Dvorak. And Belbita got the win over Oliveira. Brandon, before we move on, any other highlights on that card that kind of stood out to you for some of those fighters?
Nah, man, like I said, really just like I said, the Maverick the Maverick fight I was really looking forward to. I got to see that, so I was kind of cool on everything else, and then everything else really for me was more on the main card.
I'll say this, as far as hyping up the home country crowd, Zahabi with that knockout got everybody pumped up from that point on. Like, the crowd was kind of quiet going into that fight, and then all of a sudden Zahabi got that big knockout, and the crowd went crazy. And from that point, they were buzzing throughout the rest of the night. So that was a big fight to kind of get them going. Congratulations, Amanda, on your career. But that brings us to the next subject, Brandon. Who is the female GOAT in mixed martial arts? And, if you had asked me this 10 years ago, of course, the conversation is Cyborg, Ronda Rousey, even Marlos Conan at that point was kind of in that conversation, right? Cyborg then went, like, Ronda lost a couple times, left the sport, probably earlier than she could have, but her head wasn't right, left the sport. By the way, the door's open, Rhonda. Amanda, the boogie woman's gone. You can come back now. Leave wrestling alone. Leave wrestling alone. Go back. That's just me selfishly as a wrestling fan wanting her gone. But that said, we go fast forward. You know, we finally get that Cyborg Amanda fight, and Amanda knocks her out. Never get the rematch because Cyborg leaves the UFC. And then Cyborg goes on another late run with Bellator and even does some boxing. Whereas Amanda has been running roughshod over multiple divisions, going crazy over everybody except for Juliana Pena. But then Pena gets the rematch, or then Amanda gets the rematch and looks like her old self and destroys Pena and destroys Aldana and calls it a day. Age-wise, the two, I mean, let's be real. It's Cyborg versus Amanda. Like that's no matter how you paint it, those are the two top women in the history of the sport so far, right? Valentina's still writing her story. Other women are writing their story, but so far. And when you think about women's MMA, it's not that old. It's really not that old. They've been fighting since the early 2000s, but as far as the UFC, 2007, 2008, they brought over Ronda in the division, I believe. So it's not that old. When you get to that point, Brandon, it's those two women. I know which way you're leaning because me and you have talked about this subject a number of times. But did Amanda do enough? Because let's be real, Cyborg has 2 losses on her record. Her first loss and Amanda, and that's it. Does that head-to-head matchup change the narrative? Or has Cyborg's body of work just been so dominant that there's no way Amanda could pass her?
I mean, if you're asking me, man, I'm
asking you.
All right, I'm going with the second one. I'm going with the second one. Like I told you, man, people are prisoners of the moment.
Yeah.
Prisoners of the moment. They get that because this is why I don't understand, because the head-to-head happened. I get it. Cyborg lost. Kudos. Nunes got the job done. And that's when they want to be like, oh, she's the GOAT. But when Pena beat Nunes, they weren't trying to call Pena the GOAT. You know, it's just like, yo, like things happen. Again, greatness is over longevity, and Cyborg has the longevity. Cyborg has been fighting for a really long time, and she's been looking fantastic. You know, while Nunes, again, like, yo, man, shout out, like Nunes has done her thing. She's gotten a lot better than how she was when she first started. You know, and she has been on a tear as well. Besides, you know, the hiccup with with Pena, you know, but hey, she got her rematch, she got her revenge, she got her belt back, and you know, she got to defend it one more time, and now she's calling it a career. So I'm saying, dude, like, you already know where I am. I'm gonna lean towards Cyborg. I think Cyborg is the GOAT, but I know most people are gonna go with Nunes. And the reason too, I think is because Nunes, majority or whatever you want to say, like not really the majority of her career, but she was in UFC. Is UFC. UFC is the best. UFC is where everybody is. So that's where I know that's where most people are going to be.
Yeah, 10 years in the UFC. You know, when I look
at also, I'm sorry, just to let you know, I want to say women in the UFC, and it came in 2014, I think it was.
Was it for? Well, no, because Amanda was in 2013, and she was in a few years later. I want to say it was at least 2009, 2010. Ronda came in.
She was in Strike Force.
But the Ronda Rousey made her debut in the UFC in 2013. Yeah, you're right.
I was off by a year.
Yeah. No, you're right. 2013. So I was off by 6 years. But when I look at martial arts and I look at Amanda, and like you said, she got a lot better. I personally, and I think look, let's be clear. This is a 1A and 1B conversation. Both these women are elite. Both these women have put in a body of work. If Cyborg walked away today too, we'd be like, wow. Like, right? Like, these women are elite. And we're picking hairs when we're talking about who's the greatest between the two of them. It's Michael and LeBron, but for women MMA. And both these women, also just for MMA fighters, not even just female fighters, like MMA fighters, these women are two of the best in the world. I pick Amanda personally because you know, we look at it with like Charles Oliveira, right? When Charles Oliveira was a featherweight coming up, he was a 500 fighter, right? He found himself, you know. I used to remember listening to Sergio all the way talk about Oliveira, about how he's developed more and how he's getting better and how he's getting better. And we saw it this week. Oliveira is always getting better. He's always working to get better. And every MMA fighter, every kickboxer, every martial artist is always trying to evolve. Work on whatever weakness they think they have and make it not a weakness. Find another weakness, work on that. I think that's where Amanda got to. I think Amanda had her one hiccup, and yes, she was coming off COVID. She wasn't in shape. You could see that she was gassed early, which is something Amanda doesn't do. She doesn't get gassed. She usually just, like you saw the last 2 fights, goes 5 rounds like it's nothing. She was gassed in that Pena fight, and she wanted out. And I think that had a lot to do with COVID, but that's not an excuse. She lost. She lost. And she came back, got her revenge. If we're talking about the evolution of talent and just pure talent, I see Amanda better than Cyborg only because they fought. Amanda knocked her out, and that's where they are on a talent level. If you're talking resume, I can't argue with you, Brandon. Cyborg has been champion in every promotion she's ever been in. Her and Gina Carano basically set the table for women's MMA, and quite honestly, I can't debate you saying the Cyborg might still be the best. I personally choose Amanda, and I think this is more of a personal conversation. I would love to hear the fans at home what they have to think about this, because I think Amanda has evolved to the GOAT status. But Cyborg has the resume that says she's the GOAT. And one fight doesn't make a difference because anything can happen on any night in MMA. And we never got to see the rematch we wanted to see. The truth is, Cyborg
Dana White didn't want that rematch to happen.
That's possible because Cyborg, I was about to say, Cyborg and Dana in the UFC have never been on good terms. There was a long time they wanted her to come down to 135 pounds and fight Ronda Rousey, and she didn't want to do it because her body could not do down to 135. She almost killed herself going to 140 a couple times. You see those weight cut videos where she's in a bathtub, like damn near dying. She's a strong, muscular woman. That's just not her body frame. Not everybody is meant to look a certain perfect way. And I think Dana and the UFC for a while promoted that bantamweight division as like, this is the perfect weight class for women. Well, just like men, there is no perfect weight class. There is no perfect weight class. You see it now with the women's flyweight division and strawweight divisions and some of these other lighter divisions that are really popping up and becoming a thing. Like, it's not a perfect division, but Amanda Nunes was the best in that 135-pound division in the history of that sport. Cyborg is the best at 145 pounds and up. And they fought one time, head-to-head. That is what it is. And it wasn't a close fight. It wasn't a decision. It was a knockout. You say yourself a lot of times when champions get knocked out, they don't deserve an immediate rematch. So I say the same thing about Cyborg. But Cyborg chose to go a different route, go to a place where she's more comfortable with Bellator and Scott Coker. And Amanda is a UFC person. Unfortunately, we don't have like boxing. We don't have cross promotion. We don't have mixed promotion unless it's like Bellator working with Ryzen or something like that, or PFL possibly working with somebody. We have television contracts and a number of other things like Scott Coker's talked about in America that makes some of those cross promotions hard. Like that's why PFL and Bellator can't work together, because a lot of television contract stuff. We'll never know. We'll never see that rematch. We'll never see what happens in a closed door in a gym somewhere in the middle of nowhere. But in my money, I say it's Amanda. Brandon says it's Cyborg. I'd love to hear people's opinions at home. Before we get out of here, I do want to mention last week we also had PFL in action. A lot of great fights there. They're back in action this week again. Shout out to Pinedo, who upset the defending champion, Brendan Lofnay. Also, my wife's Peruvian, as people know, Peruvian family. Big shout out to Pinedo, who is Peruvian, made a name for himself, and now he's in the tournament. Knocked out both him and Chris Wade. Chris Wade was looking like, what? He lost, but oh damn, he got 6 points. I got 5. And shout out to Bubba Jenkins, man. What a season this guy is having. That featherweight division is crazy right now. They also coming into this week as well. Next week we'll be talking about Bellator 297 because it's Nemkov Romero for the light heavyweight title. Patricio Pitbull going against Sergio Pettis for the bantamweight title. Corey Anderson, Phil Davis, just a number of great fights on that card. We'll be talking about Bellator next week. UFC is in action as well next week with Vittori and Cannonier, and then PFL 5 as well with the heavyweights headlining, as well as Larissa Pachenko and the ladies. So a lot of great action on TV this weekend. Brandon, what are you going to be watching most this weekend? Bellator?
Yeah, I got Bellator Friday night, and then we got then of course me, being a kickboxing fan, I got Glory Collision in the afternoon, and then I could probably watch UFC at Saturday night.
Yeah, both Bellator and PFL are on the same night, so that's going to be kind of a fight as far as television time goes. And then I want to say UFC is on. Is it in the afternoon on Saturday?
No, I thought UFC was at nighttime.
Is it at night? Okay.
I think so.
Oh, it's the week after that. They're on ABC. Yeah. 2 weeks from now, they're on ABC, and I think that's during the daytime. The Emmett Topuria fight. Heating up for the summer, Brandon. You know how MMA goes when the summer comes. So there's a lot of great fights coming up. Of course, International Fight Week coming up soon as well. You're going out for that this year, right?
Nah, dude, I got my weeks mixed up. So we're actually going to be in Vegas the week before it happens.
Oh, man. Last week you were there for the wrong event. This year we did the wrong week.
Yeah, yeah.
Next year, Brandon. Next year.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So we got our weeks mixed up. It was all set. And the next thing you know, they're like, oh, International Fight Week is happening on, July 8th. And I'm like, oh, man, because I'm coming back on that Sunday. So, oh, well.
You miss a flight. It's fine. Your wife might be a little upset you, but you're fine.
Yeah, it's all right. They're saying that she'll be out there with me, so it's all good. We're having
there you go. Y'all both miss work. It's fine. No big deal. Tiger Schulman's. I'm a little sick today.
I mean, she works from home, so it doesn't matter.
just say you're locked on a roof like Hangover. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Art of MMA. Make sure you leave a comment. Let us know what you feel about the show. Let us know about the female GOAT conversation. And make sure you keep tuning in. We always appreciate you. For the mechanic, Brandon Catino, I'm Mike Ginn. We're out.